All right, we got a little time, a little extra time here. Let's do another segment of the infamous TRIMET board meeting.
And we'll now go to the business meeting. So we always start with the board reports. And I'd like to first invite Director Edwards to provide an update on the latest meeting on the Committee on Accessible Transportation, better known as CAT. Director Edwards?
Thank you very much. I would like to start out talking about a field trip that we had actually made. We went over to Center Street on March 9th, and we're looking at the new operator safety panels. Excuse me. And I think that field trip was very, CAT committee members were there, and there was a very, I think, valuable opportunity that was taken to actually view and be, to see the actual physicality of what was being proposed. And we talked about that in our CAT meeting as well, about having more field trips going forward, so they can see things before they've been designed and implemented, so we can get on the front end of that. And I think that was very valuable and very important. Speaking of safety concerns, there was also a concern about garbage and rubbish, and to be specific, houseless folks that are causing challenges not only to the efficiency of TriMet, but also to the accessibility of ridership when it comes to those CAT members that need that accessibility. Because
yes, this is called a humanitarian crisis, although all of us here in the United States of insanity are numb to that for some unknown reason. Like those people don't count to us. They're an annoyance, you see. As he's stating here, well, these homeless people are impeding our services. Yes, that's true, of course, but when you live in a death cult, this is the kind of thing that happens.
It's very challenging trying to get, around the rubbish or through the rubbish, or, getting on or off trying to.
I have no problem sending trillions of dollars to fight in Ukraine, but taking care of people here, it's not going to ever happen. Nope, sorry. And we'll get our own citizens to hate the other citizens. Well, they've gotten so good at brainwashing. I mean, you can see it all around you, but this is particularly interesting how they've got Americans hating the poor. I mean, that takes a lot of skill to be able to turn people into that kind of non-thinking machine. Those poor people, they should be killed. They should be disposed of. They should be in a camp. Those critters.
And so there's been conversations, I shouldn't say conversations, there's been an outreach trying to get a hold of the city, and so hopefully that will bear some fruit so that those issues can be taken care of, because they are very challenging, and those are issues that are difficult to take care of simply because they're not part of TriMet's purview in regards to creating an accessible transportation system. Steve Hicks gave an update as a lift contractor. He said there was a huge drop in ridership from December to January, 25%. Complaints about the service were reduced as well. And he also expressed that there were some challenges with recruiting, and that was very difficult for him to try to make sure that they could maintain the service, simply because recruiting personnel was very difficult.
Yeah, because you don't want to pay money. We see this all around the country, the same fucking thing, man. There's a labor shortage. No, it's a pay shortage. We live in a death cult. Do you understand? A death cult. Where the elites would rather you die than give you what you need to live. This is not an exaggeration.
There were also concerns raised regarding the efficiency of the service. Not huge, but if you're the person that's being impacted, by those inefficiencies, then it's very disconcerting. And so those were addressed as well. We even talked about perhaps there are some ways to address that by having conversations with the personnel, and maybe even having to not discharge people, but using some kind of discipline that would help improve the service. Dave Daly gave a report about the need to develop a survey to ascertain how current service impacts the BIPOC ridership. And that was discussed, and he's been also talking to administration at TRIMET to try to help either develop that survey or try to figure out how they can ascertain how that service is being impacted. Tom Markgraf gave a comprehensive report regarding the redistricting, and in that report he also added that there are no current directors that would be impacted by any proposed redistricting. Alan Leto also gave an equally comprehensive report regarding the fiscal year 23 business plan, and it was noted that perhaps another designation should be added to diversity, equity, and inclusion, because typically when we think of diversity, equity, and inclusion, we think of either race or gender, and we don't include those that have accessibility needs. So
that's a good point, isn't it? That is a good point.
I'm not sure what that designation would look like, but what alpha we would use, but it should be something that we should certainly consider. That concludes my report, unless there are any questions.
Thank you, Director Edwards, for that comprehensive report. And Director Gonzalez, you have a
Hey,
comment?
Ozzy.
Thank you. It was not a question at all, but yes, a comment. Thank you, President Simmons. Thank you for the report, Director Edwards. I simply wanted to chime in with an idea that I've heard out there that I am a big fan of, to include access in the conversation. And the idea I've heard is IDEA, I-D-E-A, and it's inclusion, diversity, equity, and access. And it's about making sure that access is embedded.
Good point. Good point. I like it.
In the inclusive conversation.
Thank you very much for that. That sounds great, and I like the acronym.
Mm-hmm. Any other comments or questions for Director Edwards?
I don't like Simmons.
Seeing none, we'll go on next to Vice President Lori Irish Bauman.
Why does she keep throwing her name Irish in there? See, look at this. It says Lori Bauman. Lori Bauman. See, what's the matter with you?
For an update on the Finance and Audit Committee. Director Bauman.
Good morning, everyone. The Finance and Audit Committee met this morning, and there were two items on the agenda that I'll cover briefly for you. The first item was what's being called a short-term fare initiative that TriMet is studying. John Gardner and J.C. Van Atta described this to us. It's an effort to deploy some of the HB 2017 funds that are associated with the low-income fare. There's an opportunity to use some additional funds to try to increase access to the system. So this plan has three elements. There are three pilot programs. One is to create a high school summer pass program for low-income high school students, and that would be 25 to 30,000 passes, if I have the numbers correct. The second element would be expanding grants for transit passes to community organizations that serve low-income veterans and people with disabilities and other low-income groups. And finally, the third element of the proposal would be to load 1 month of fare on the hop cards of those who have already have the low-income fare. These three potential programs, as I indicated, are being studied and are going to be taken to TIAC, I believe, for some conversation, but this was just an initial presentation to the Finance and Audit Committee to introduce us to some of these concepts, to encourage use of the system by low-income individuals. And the second element of our meeting today was to discuss the fiscal year 2023 budget resolution. And Nancy Young Oliver gave a presentation. We're going to be discussing the budget later in this meeting, so I won't go into too much detail, but I will say that we do want to highlight that TriMet won an award last year for the budget format, and there's a continuous effort to...
They won an award. The technocrats, you know how they are. They give themselves awards. They create awards for themselves. And TriMet got one of those technocratic awards for the best budget process or some nonsense like that.
Kind of improve the presentation to make it easily understandable, and including some very helpful narrative sections. And in particular, we look more closely at page 32 of the proposed budget, and that is a resource summary that shows how, that really summarizes in just one page kind of some historical data and the proposed data for this upcoming year on resources and how they're being used, and the impact in particular on the fund balance. I will stop there, and that's the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Irish-Bauman. And are there any questions or comments from members of the board? And I'm looking for hands to be raised. I can now tell that when you have a question. All right. Well, seeing none.
I'm sorry, President Simmons. I had my physical hand up.
Oh, I'm sorry, and I was looking at the other way to see hands up. Okay.
You're absolutely right. I still haven't mastered the digital hand raising, so I apologize.
I haven't either.
Yeah, just look at your screen.
I just have one quick question for Director Bauman on the pilot projects around fairs, and just I know you were just briefed on this, so no worries at all if it's still developing. But do you know if there's an opportunity for community members to provide input to those pilot programs? I know that you mentioned TIAC might be involved with this, which is great. Just wondering if there was any other community process for the projects.
Yes, if John Gardner is here, he could talk about that. He did set out for us a multi-step process to get public input, and I would ask him to weigh in if he's available.
Oh, where are you, Mr. Bureaucracy?
And it sounds like he's not here, but Director Way will get that information for you.
Great, thank you.
Okay, next we're going to go to Director Kim. Director Kim is going to provide an update on the Metro Policy Advisory Committee. Director Kim?
President Simmons, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Perfect. At the February 23rd meeting, MPAC discussed the proposed work plan, engagement plan, and proposed values and outcomes for the 2023 Regional Transportation Plan update. Some initial findings from Metro's Emerging Transportation Trend Study and Metro's Food Scraps Requirements update as well. The Regional Transportation Plan update will be starting next month with engagement around refining regional transportation goals and policy updates. At MPAC, there were some discussion about how this RTP update might more clearly engage a wider range of stakeholders and better prioritize strategies to reduce greenhouse gas emissions from transport.
Yeah, they're focused on greenhouse gas. Meanwhile, their system is in shambles. That's not hyperbole. It's in shambles. You're not going to hear that from anybody but me and maybe PDX Scanner. And nobody cares what we're saying. Nobody wants a Debbie Downer. Well, I'm sorry to tell you. Things are bad out there. And if you listen to that scanner, you never take TriMet, okay? Because it's fucking shit.
While also balancing safety and congestion management needs. During the emerging trends study topic, there were some questions from MPEC members about trends that Metro presented regarding the challenges that transit agencies have faced during the pandemic and what it could mean for future ridership and service. So TRIMET will be working closely with Metro and local jurisdictions to share our fleet transition plans and future transit service and ridership assumptions for the regional transportation plan update. Of course, as well as emerging trends and existing conditions from the Forward Together Comprehensive Service Analysis. And in terms of the next meeting, we'll be meeting next week. It got pushed back to next week. So I'm looking forward to that. That is all for me.
Good. Well, thank you, Director Kim. I look forward to seeing, what comes out of the revision to the plan. That'll be really good. Do we have any questions for Director Kim? And if you don't raise your hand, speak out. Okay. Well, now we're going to get an update from Director Lewis.
Where's Ozzy? Doesn't have a board report.
Director Lewis.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. The Public Safety Advisory Committee met on March 15th. It was pretty much on Zoom. We had an excellent turnout for committee members and TriMet support staff. Our security update for March was provided to us by Executive Director of Safety and Security, Andrew Wilson, and he provided an overview of the two critical incidences that were in the media and I think on the local news, which we try to include those so that if any of the members have any questions.
Well, let's discuss it. Talk about it. What the fuck good is this if you're not going to talk about the actual incidents? Oh, I forgot. That's right. This is a scripted, required meeting that's not meant to be controversial. It's meant to be what it is. A boring, horrible, you can't even sit through it presentation of technocrats talking about stuff that really doesn't matter.
That are appropriate to be responded to when we can be transparent and share that. John Garner and his team.
She's not going to tell us. She's not going to say what were the incidents and what did you talk about. They're not going to tell us. Why should I watch this shit? It's useless.
Also shared an update on our exciting community-based mini training grant RFP, which will be awarded.
And there's so many incidents. She talked about two, but there's, on any given day, there's like a half a dozen incidents that you could consider serious.
Up to about $10,000 for community-based experts, providing some of the new training for our frontline staff.
See what they're doing? They're spending all of this money. All these government entities are just loaded in cash. So understand this to be the truth, because it is. They're just loaded in cash. They have all that money that was printed and given to the feds. And the feds gave it out to all these agencies, and most of it went into capital projects because that's how the elites steal your money, is through the capital projects. But they have enough to have like this crap. This train, we're going to get requests for proposals from community agencies. What a joke.
We continue.
Why don't you get conductors on trains? Why don't you get barriers that work? All of this nonsense talk is nonsense.
To work on safe, keeping the public safety system safe and welcoming for everyone.
It's very welcoming. It's very safe. Listen to Scanner. Check out PDX Scanner Twitter. Check out my Twitter.
P launched excitingly on February 25th, and there was an information session on March 9th. It was on Zoom. We had 5 attendees from 4 different agencies, and a total of 12 agencies have expressed interest in applying. We were really excited to hear that. And if you
it's free money here. You want some money? Apply. Of course, they're going to apply. Bureaucracies like to expand themselves.
If you want to hear the information session, it has been recorded, just like John Gardner or anyone on his staff know, and they can get that for you.
Of course, it's not in the public domain, of course.
The staff engaged about 250 emails to organizations, social service providers, city and county staff of Multnomah County, Washington, and Clackamas County. 219 partner agencies that are part of the Low Income Fair program also
290 poverty pimp agencies. We call them poverty pimps because they all make money on the poverty problem. So she said there's 290 of them, each one of them with their own bureaucracy. And that's why there's so much poverty, because the system is run by a pimping type system. No money doesn't actually get to actual people. It all gets spread around to these pimps. All of these are pimps. Everybody involved.
Receive solicitation. Also, the information was shared on Equity on the Move newsletter. TriMet LinkedIn, TriMet's CAT and TIAC committees also received the information. All applications for the RFP are due by 5 o'clock, March 25th. That's like around the corner. TriMet and members of the committee will be on the review team to review all the proposals and award the contracts in late April. Another exciting piece in our meeting for the month was the safety response team. We had an excellent...
They have one team, and it's on max. It's wholly insufficient. They need like 5 teams, and they need them to be mobile. But they've done what every other god did. It's like a national movement. You know, they get together and say, well, how can we make people feel better about our transit systems? Well, we'll start what's called a safety response team to give the perception that we're doing something. Well, unfortunately, it's wholly inadequate. It's not enough. One team is not of any consequence.
Overview from Tom Hunt, who is the manager of the safety response team.
See, they have the safety response team has its own manager. Oh, yeah. I'm sure they have a whole bureaucracy set up around that too, of course.
Looked at their training, data that is collected by this team, networking efforts, and we have a great chance to see the new video. Some of you may have seen that on social media about the team.
Yeah, we saw it.
And their sharing of stories. And the video can be seen on YouTube. At our next meeting, we will revisit all of our reimagining initiatives back from our charter, and we'll be joined by Multnomah County Sheriff's Office to actually look at an overview of the transit police. If you're interested, please.
The fucking police don't show up. Okay, they don't show up unless there's some kind of a violent threat or a violent act. The police don't show up. I don't blame the police. I mean, you know, why should they have to deal with all of this transit-related stuff that's not really police matters? I mean, getting sleepers off buses. But, you know, the TriMet people can't put their hands on people. The cops can just haul your ass. The cops can do whatever they want. You know, they can shoot you if they want.
Attend. There were no public comments, and I forgot to mention that we did have public comments at our meeting before last from the public, which we were real excited. And we do follow up on those members from the community that do attend. Next meeting is scheduled in April 19th from 3:30 to 5 on Zoom. And that concludes my report. Any questions?
Thank you, Director Lewis. Let's see. I'm looking to see. I don't see any questions. So we'll now move on to the final report for this morning, which is provided by Director Way, and it's on the Transit Equity Advisory Committee, better known as TIAC. Director Way?
Thank you. Good morning, board members. So several things happened at the last TIAC meeting. First of all, we opened up the meeting just acknowledging Women's History Month. As many of folks know, there are several buses that feature many types of murals highlighting different communities, BIPOC communities, also women included in that. And so this is also acknowledging, celebrating 25 years of public art, which I believe TRIMET has been taken a part of. We also, as Dr. Lewis mentioned, talked a little bit about the Reimagined Safety Community Training RFP. TRIMET is requesting the training proposals through March 31st, 2022, and TIAC members were briefed on the training and the training RFP and how to
apply. The training RFP. Lordy Lord.
We also received information on Access Transit Fare Relief Grants. This application period is now open from spring of 2022 to early summer of 2022. And this is a fare relief program that we provide for up to grants of $25,000 to qualified community-based organizations.
See, qualified community-based. They don't actually give anything to anybody that's an actual person. They just give it to these goddamn poverty pimps. This is the problem with our entire society, is that it's run by these people who are just disconnected from reality. It's so disheartening to have to watch this.
Nonprofits, and over the last year, we have awarded over 115 grants, which have totaled $1.8 million. We have also done a series of various surveys for the community. There was a survey that launched at the end of February, and it was asking.
Yeah, they do love their surveys, don't they?
Writers to provide feedback on our service, safety, security, civil rights, and more topics. And so far, we've received over 5,000 responses. There is a phase 2 of this outreach work that will be happening, and that will also include more of a targeted conversation for partnered community-based organizations and additional gatherings. As many of you know, Oregon also announced that March 11th would be the last day for masks to be required in schools and indoor places. However, according to the TSA, the mask mandate for public transit is in place through March 18th. And since then,
No, it's April 18th, and it's creating chaos. It's just chaos. You know, the government... Our oligarchs love to create chaos in the society. That's what their whole thing is. How do we create chaos among the serfs? And they've done an excellent job.
We have passed that deadline, and writers can still wear masks if that is what their choices and preferences on transit. There were some conversations, I think particularly from folks at IRCO in TIAC, who said that these changes might be tough, right, for some of their community members, as well as folks who English might not be a first language. So we are in continued conversations and discussions with many of our community partners who have expressed interest in making sure that we get the word out about the mask mandates and the deadlines. And also, again, really also saying that if folks want to choose to wear a mask on our public transit, they can definitely feel free to do that.
Of course, of course.
We also talked a little bit about the Better Red construction. We are in first of the 4 planned disruptions that are necessary for this project to happen. So from April 2nd through April 9th, there will be no red line service.
No red line.
However, shuttle buses will be used to move people.
Where are they going to get the buses? Where are they going to get the bus drivers? What a disaster.
Between Gateway Transit Center and the Portland International Airport. And I believe there are alerts that we are already doing on the communication side to let our writers know about that disruption that has been previously planned. I'll just skip through a couple of these things, additional things that we talked about. But I think one of the things that we want to also just highlight is that we are conducting various community surveys, as I have said before in the past.
Surveys. We're conducting surveys, Rippy. Shit. Rippy's one of the few people that might actually watch this, but if it goes on too long, I'm sure he won't get to this point.
TAC members were also just expressing, gosh, TRIMET does a lot of surveys, and they're a little bit,
didn't I just say that?
Fatigued by a lot of these questions that they have to fill out on a sort of a regular basis.
Of course we're fatigued.
I believe
we're fatigued, and it doesn't do us any good. You do what you want. It doesn't matter what we think. You know that, we know that. You're just trying to manufacture consent for what you want. And it's just lucky that I am completely not popular and can't get any of my ideas out into the mainstream, because you guys are a wreck.
Our TAC team, as well as others, has been really trying to keep that feedback in mind. And I'm really excited about this phase 2 process that's happening after, the what happens after, right? Folks take a survey. So there will be, as I mentioned before, just deeper engagement with a more hands-on focus on particular focus topics that community members can organize around. So one of those focus topics could very well be fairs. I know that there's sort of a strong theme right now that we've heard today, and from the Budget and Finance Committee around different pilot projects that are happening around fairs. So I do believe that will be one particular focus group where we can get more members to participate in, as well as additional town halls and gatherings. I just want to also note that these surveys that we have put out have been translated into 6 languages.
Where is she?
So, we are really working hard to make sure that these surveys reflect the languages in the communities that are spoken by our TRIMET writers.
Thank you.
And stay tuned. We will be following up again with work planning, work groups, again, these focus groups focusing on different topics, and also just strengthening our partnerships with community and community-based organizations and
community-based poverty pimps and technocracies.
I do believe that we are going to be also having a sort of a TAC member retreat to do a little bit more envisioning and planning around the work that we want to do, and that is scheduled for early summer. So that is quite a lot, and I take any questions or comments.
Thank you, Director Wade. By the way, Director Wade, are you aware that your video is off?
Oh, I did not know that. I had to go to a different screen to read my notes, so maybe that's why it disappeared.
Yeah, okay.
I apologize for that.
No, that's okay, just as long as you're back on and we can see you. Thank you so much. Does anyone have any comments or questions for Director Wade?
No, please don't.
Seeing none, then I'm going to move on to the general manager.
All right, we'll do that. I can't do any more. This has gone on too long, but I want to show you one thing. This woman here, Cassie Wilson, is trying to get a TRIMET HC card, and she filmed her journey, and let's watch it.
Come with me on my journey to downtown Portland to turn in my TRIMET disabled fare rate application. So for those of you who don't know, TRIMET has lower fare rates for people who are disabled, but in order to access those fare rates, you have to fill out a physical application and also have your doctor fill it out to verify that you're disabled. And then from the time your doctor signs it, you have 30 days to take it to TRIMET's downtown Portland office to get a special ID card verifying you're disabled to access the lower fare rates. So for me, it's about an hour.
So, did you just hear what she said? So you have to jump through all these hoops, and then you have 30 days from when your doctor signs the letter. And then you have to physically go down there. Why the fuck, in the age of the internet and everybody else is on Zoom, why the fuck does she have to go physically down to the office? What is the matter with you fucking TRIMET manager fucking executives? What is wrong with you? Why can't you do anything right?
trip total from driving from home to Gresham to take the Max to downtown Portland, and I got there only to find out that TRIMET's computer system was down and they couldn't even help me today.
Yeah, the leader in technology, folks. The leader. Now, why the fuck didn't they take her application and materials and tell her they will send her the card when they get their system online? No, they didn't do that. They want her to come back. What a fucking disgrace. And unfortunately, nothing will change because it doesn't matter. TRIMET management and executives are deaf, dumb, and blind to the needs of the riders. They're completely disconnected. They couldn't care less. They're completely disconnected, arrogant pieces of shit, as Gerald Salenti would say.
Fortunately, I had made other plans for my afternoon, so I caught the Max, and I did have some extra time, so I decided to stop and look at the pretty trees because it was a really nice day and they're in bloom.
All right, she's going to take, we don't really need to see anymore. That I just wanted you to see how ridiculous TRIMET, they try to pretend they're like, oh, we love we're so good. We try to help people. But look at the shit they make you go through to get one of their passes. It's just not acceptable. It's not acceptable.